So Americans are getting crushed by debt, and when you're buried in credit card and loan debt, it's easy to put it off and think, well, I'll deal with that later. The experts at DoneWithDebt discovered a new strategy that can dramatically reduce or even eliminate some of your debt. So today, Jillian Barberie joins us. You know her as a TV personality, but what you may not know is she's lived through this debt stress herself. Jillian, welcome, please. You've been through the debt battle. What do you know now that you wish you'd known sooner?
Well, I wish I had known about DoneWithDebt.com sooner, to be honest with you, Eric. I stumbled into them by chance by a friend of mine. At that point, I was seriously, going through chemo. I had bills, forever burying me, 2 kids, no child support. I had a radio job, and I went to it every day. Thank goodness I wasn't on TV. I was bald, but the debt just was, oh my gosh, insurmountable, black cloud. And what people don't realize is with debt comes emotional stress, right? So, some people, it's shameful. They don't want to talk to anybody. This is where you can talk to someone. DoneWithDebt.com. These are master negotiators on your side. And you've got a free consultation if you call them up. Look at the testimonials online. It's really an incredible way that they approach debt. They don't want to get you into bankruptcy. They don't want to get one big consolidated loan. They want to get you debt free and on your way to financial freedom using their equations. And what you have to do is just call them up and talk to them first. That way they can speak with the banking institutions and they can speak with the credit card companies. They also know some of the ins and outs that we as Americans don't know, right? The American consumer has no idea. And look, these are people just trying to live. And it could be your favorite NFL player. Maybe he was mismanaged with money because he's out on the field. For me, it was just a multitude of things that happened, even though I had a bunch of TV shows at the time, trusting the wrong people, believing that they had your back. You have to, I don't care how type B you are like me, you must keep your eyes on the prize. And that is your money. You are working hard for it. So it happens to the average American, even Americans that we know that are making a lot of money. And we see these people daily on TV. Our sports heroes, could be musical heroes. Sometimes they're just actors. We tend to think that everyone on TV has, this great nest. For me, when cancer struck, I had nothing to sort of go back on. And I was in severe debt. So, thank goodness they came along and they got me on the path to financial stress-free freedom. Now, listen, am I living like I used to? Absolutely not. And that's okay because I'm living now debt-free.
Jillian, I only have about a minute, so real quick, very quickly, how can people get in touch? This is the right time to do it. If you don't mind, give us that last.
Absolutely, Eric. So the first thing I tell people is don't pay another bill. Put the bill down and go to DoneWithDebt.com before you do anything else. And overnight, literally, the nasty phone calls stop. The mail stops. It literally took 2 days for all of that to happen. And that just unloads a tremendous amount of stress from you right there. So go to DoneWithDebt.com. Again, free consultation. You've got nothing to lose. And look at the testimonials at least. See the people that they've helped. They're an incredible group of people that are on your side.
Right. Jillian, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Jillian Barberie, DoneWithDebt.com.
Thanks so much, Eric. See you soon.
All right, let's bring in our next guest who says America's energy future may be in danger due to this $85 billion merger between Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern Railroads. Here to discuss is the founder and executive director of Power of the Future, Daniel Turner. Daniel, you say without competitive and responsive freight rail service, America will be in trouble. Very, very important that you explain why this monster merger, how big it will be, and what are the risks to you and me, to mom, pop, middle America, if this thing goes through.
Yeah, and I'm approaching this from the energy perspective because we rely on rail to transport crude, natural gas, coal, et cetera. And we've seen in the past when these huge monopolies take place that they actually do hurt consumers. In the last 20 years, for example, the price of trucking has gone up, sure, but the price of rail has gone up 70% more. And the reason why is because there are a very few number of rail companies. There are only 4 now nationwide that have merged, and they've created these huge monopolies and these huge conglomerates, and that cuts down competitiveness, it cuts down choice, and it ultimately drives up price. So yes, I care about it from energy, but everybody who cares about manufactured goods or agriculture or any product that has to get shipped should be concerned about this consolidation of power by large companies.
I spent a lot of time in the energy business before I got involved in television, and one of the things we notice is as it becomes more and more difficult to drill pipelines, to dig holes, dig trenches, and put pipelines in because of, basically progressive people don't want pipeline running through their states, so they block these things, Keystone Pipeline, et cetera. All that shipping has to go above ground. Rail is the obvious beneficiary of that, but when you only have a couple of options, if this merger goes through, that brings the big four down to three, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the huge problem here is that when you have fewer companies that control the market, then they get to dictate the price. And the reason why we have so much competitive pricing in other industries is because there is a lot of competition. So I'm concerned about it from this perspective. It's why government regulates and is careful of these types of mergers, because ultimately when power is consolidated in just a handful of companies, consumers haven't benefited in the end.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a listen to J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance at TPUSA, recently talking about the dangers of monopolies. And we want to talk about all monopolies necessarily aren't bad, but certain ones are. But take a listen to J.D.
Now, but there's a broader question there, and I think most Americans, whatever their political persuasion, would actually like the country's political parties to work together better to solve the problems. And look, and I agree with that. And my approach when I was in the United States Senate was to try to find some issues where we could agree with the other side on and try to work with them on it. And let me give you one example. I really worry about concentration in the corporate sector. I worry about big corporate monopolies. I worry that when you have only one or two companies dominating an entire sector, it's bad for liberty and it's bad for prosperity.
Yeah, bad for liberty, very, very important, and also bad for really price discovery. Go ahead, take it from there.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen this in other industries that have had the same sort of consolidation of power, right? And how it hasn't benefited the consumers. And that's something that, we have to be concerned about. We all need our energy to be delivered. We need our consumer goods, our food to be transported nationwide. And this conglomerate of power isn't going to benefit the American people. If anything, it's going to drive up prices. Look at, for example, the banking industry and how people like Elizabeth Warren jumped into this space saying they were going to regulate it. After 15 years, what do we have? We have fewer, stronger, wealthier, big banks with fewer choices for American people. Same with healthcare, same with pharma, right? So to see railroad go down this track is not something that is going to be ever beneficial to the American consumer.
I'm a free marketeer. I talk about it all the time here. Some of my folks that watch don't love the fact that I don't like tariffs because I like the free market, like government out of our markets. This merger creates a bit of a red flag for me because you need the STB, the Surface Transportation Board, to approve this. Is there a deal that they're going to cut so that government olays this deal, this merger?
Well, I mean, you could never imagine big business getting in bed with big government, right? There are no shady deals have ever happened that way. No, this is something that has to be approved. And there are X number of railroad track in the country, and they're not going to be building any more. And that's why the fewer people who get to have access to this track consolidates that power and is bad for.
Do me a favor. So the folks,
we put out a letter asking for this merger to be stopped exactly to the Surface Transportation Board.
And just take us through, only about a minute and a half or so left here, Dan, because I want one follow-up question, but take us through how the actual boots on the ground, folks watching right now, middle America, would be affected by this merger if it goes through.
Well, again, you have to think of everything that is transported through rail, and I care about it because a third of our nation still runs on coal, and coal is transported by rail. Natural gas, crude oil, a lot of it is transported by rail. And when you have fewer companies setting the price of that goes up, and ultimately the price is paid by the consumer. So yes, they're going to charge more for fees to use the rail, but they'll just on the back end charge the consumer more, and the prices will continue. What keeps prices low is competition. And to have competition, we need more companies, not fewer, in this space.
Finally, we recall, pretty sure it was Norfolk Southern that had a problem in East Palestine, Ohio, right? How'd that turn out? How'd that go?
Exactly. Has it even been resolved at this point? Remember, Joe Biden didn't visit there once. I think it took Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, I think, over a month to actually show up. And there's always going to be accidents, and they're terrible when they happen. But safety is also a concern. The larger the corporation, the worse the track record is on reliability, on affordability, and also on safety.
All right, Daniel, before we go, how can folks find out more about it? I think I came across this, I read your op-ed. Tell us where we can find out more, and if they want to get involved and vote against it, so to speak. Where should
Thank
they do
you.
that?
Yeah, you can see our letter and our op-ed on powerthefuture.com. And on the letter, we show you how you can contact the Surface Transportation Board and let them know your concerns.
And where's that op-ed? I read it.
The op-ed was on Town Hall originally, but you can see it on our website as well.
Right. I read it. I thought it was Examiner, but it's Town Hall. Yeah, it's a great op-ed. Thank you so much. Daniel Turner, good to see you again, my friend. Long time friends via TV, but great, all around really, really smart guy. Daniel Turner, founder and executive director of Power the Future, folks. Thank you, Daniel.
Anytime.
All right, folks. We'll be right back.
Peter Alexander, one question, Peter. Last question.
Clearly, we're contemplating what would happen if they struck down these tariffs. Are you, or how are you preparing for that contingency?
Well, I just said we're going to cross out. That's your words, not mine, and it's a silly statement, so don't make it. So we are confident, and especially after today, I believe that the Solicitor General made a great case. I actually thought that the two plaintiffs' attorneys, in a way, embarrassed themselves, because at one point there was a question. So you believe that the President of the United States has the authority to embargo a country, but does not have the authority to assert a 1% tariff? And the plaintiff's attorney was forced to say yes. So it's completely nonsensical. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Well, that was Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent reacting to the administration stood in front of the Supreme Court today to argue their case in favor of imposing tariffs, and the Supreme Court was skeptical. Ketanji Brown, a couple of liberals on the bench, were giving our Solicitor General, U.S. Solicitor General, a bit of a hard time. I was listening to some of that testimony. Pretty fascinating stuff. All righty. By the way, in a sea of winning against the backdrop of such a massive win in November 2024, exactly 1 year ago to the day on November 5th, the president, the House, the Senate all went back to the GOP. Against the backdrop of more and more wins throughout this year, the losses in New York, Virginia, New Jersey, and California can feel like a tough pill to swallow. And no, Wall Street Journal, this is not a Democrat comeback. More on that nonsense in just a moment. But folks, let's just calm down for a second. Take a very deep breath and allow me to take you on a little tour to explain why, one, this is expected, and two, we can use it to our advantage if we use it smartly, wisely. The media owned by the Democrat Party is going to enjoy their messaging today. I'm sure they are. Voters reject Trump. Saw that. Voters make their voices heard in early referendum of Trump. The propaganda machine is hard at work staging this as some sort of Democrat comeback. It's not even close, my friends. New York, New Jersey, Virginia, California, blue, 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 and bluer. Do we really think there's a chance of GOP wins in any of these, of the above? President Trump lost these in 2024. People have marched through the streets of these places calling for ICE to be disbanded, for the president to be assassinated, for Israel to be annihilated. What did we expect? Did we think places like that would change in the span of just 12 months? No. We've been sending warning shots about Zohran Mamdani for several months now. And those fears rang true after his win last night. All you have to do is listen to the far left rage. The truth comes out, of course, after the election now.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. Build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. Tonight we have stepped out from the old into the new.
Jawaharlal Nehru. To be clear, the man he quoted right there is the Marxist founding father of socialist India. That man he quoted destroys India's soul in the name of progress. Mamdani is promising to do the same to New York. And even the progressive liberal Van Jones had to criticize this angry little Marxist.
That speech appealed to some, but I think he missed an opportunity. I think the Mamdani that we saw on the campaign trail, who was a lot more calm, who was a lot warmer, who was a lot more embracing, was not present in that speech. I think his tone was sharp. I think he was using the microphone in a way that he was almost yelling.
You know, that's what New York gets. I mean, you think he was going to be the same guy after the election that he was before. It's kind of like getting married, isn't it? I digress. My wife's beautiful and wonderful. I think New York City now has far bigger problems than tone. Sorry about that, Van Jones, but so it goes. As far back as June, we warned about his connections to the Muslim Brotherhood right here on the show. His Marxist ideas, the Soros connection, it's all there. We've also warned about Spamberger in Virginia and about Mickey Sherrill in New Jersey and about California passing Prop 50 to change the law ex-constitutionally. New Jersey in the north is populated by the same people who elected the jihadist communists in New York City. And in the south of New Jersey, those same people who elected a sub-average IQ communist to be mayor of Philadelphia. Virginia controlled by swarms of federal government workers who live in Northern Virginia and are angry at President Trump. It's true, New York is done, at least until another Rudy Giuliani comes along to clean up the mess. Not sure you'll find it in New York, but they got what they voted for. And they'll find out the consequences of their choice soon enough. Play very stupid games, win very stupid prizes. New Jersey will be enjoying grooming and indoctrination in their public schools. Virginia will see boys in girls' locker rooms. California will continue to be the swamp derivative state. Nothing really changes for the wokest, bluest of states ever. These people exercise their democratic rights and they'll get exactly what they voted for. But the Republic is still in GOP hands for now, being saved brick by brick every single day. We got a year. You got to worry about 2026. And to remind us, this took over at the Mamdani campaign headquarters. Trump is your president. What a genius moment that was, hacking the screen at the Communist campaign headquarters. But what happened on Tuesday says nothing about what's really happening, which is that the Democrat Party is dying a death. Its ratings are through the floor, and it says nothing about 2026 or 2028. It does, however, mean that their party has now fully embraced the far left, the socialists, as an annoyingly jolly AOC points out.
Not party unity when it serves everybody, it puts those folks on notice. And I think it also puts folks on notice that we have a future to plan for. We have a future to fight for. And we're either going to do that together or you're going to be left behind.
These people are celebrating socialism. They're celebrating socialism. It's ruined countries. It's killed hundreds of millions of people worldwide. And like I said before, it's a creep. You start in New York, Minneapolis, California, Virginia. It's a cancer. It's going to metastasize. It will. To be clear, what our favorite little communist there is saying to her own party, it's far left or bust. It's socialism or there's the door. And that is going to work well in our favor. The further left they go, the more wins we'll have now in the midterms and in 2028. It will further progress and help push along the death of that party. Problem is what becomes of the party. It's almost like the rhinos became MAGA, a better version of conservatism. The left is going to go the opposite way. They're going to take the progressive leftists and become socialist. I don't know. This country is far bifurcating, splitting, dividing, and getting further and further. Americans with just a lick of common sense won't stand for it, we're hoping. In the days and weeks ahead, you'll see and hear people try to say that Tuesday was a rejection of MAGA. Don't fall for their propaganda. We're not going to back to the days of the Rhino, the days of McCain and Romney's. No way. None of that, none of what these pundits and propagandists will say about what happened on Tuesday is true. Simply a repeat of 2024, nothing more. So let's all calm down. And on to 2026, where we do need to focus. We do need to focus on 2026. You got to get that president back engaged early, maybe even start now. We're a year out from 2026 elections. Maybe it's time he starts stumping for some Republicans. Keep the House. You got to keep that House and Senate. All right, folks, we'll be back in 2.5 minutes.